Have you ever watched a leaf fall from a tree in autumn? It doesn't cling, it doesn't resist the wind, it simply lets go. Not because it gives up, but because it understands the rhythm of life. So much of human suffering begins not in what happens to us, but in how tightly we hold on to success, to identity, to timelines and imagined destinations. We believe we must always be becoming someone better, more accomplished, more worthy of love or peace. And in this endless striving, we forget the simple, liberating truth. We already are. This quiet illusion that we are not yet enough seeps into the marrow of our daily lives. It shows up in the sleepless nights spent replaying conversations, in the self-comparisons that chip away at joy, in the subtle anxiety that whispers, "You should be further along by now." And yet, what if the truth was far simpler, far kinder? There is an old Zen story about a student who traveled far to seek the wisdom of a great master. Upon arrival, he began listing all he had read and practiced, hoping to prove himself. The master silently poured tea into the student's cup, filling it to the brim, and then kept pouring. The tea spilled onto the table, then to the floor. Alarmed, the student said, "Stop, the cup is full." The master looked into his eyes and said gently, "Like this cup, you are full of your own ideas. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Letting go is not a loss, it is an opening. We cling because we believe that effort and control are the tools of survival, but the Dharma teaches otherwise. In the Buddha's first noble truth, he names dukkha, the suffering born from craving, from grasping, as the root of our discontent. We crave things to be different, and in doing so, we abandon the present moment, the only place where wholeness resides. Take, for example, Eleanor, a 67-year-old woman who spent most of her life working in finance. She had a beautiful home, 2 adult children, and a calendar full of activities. And yet, every night, she felt hollow. She had spent decades climbing ladders, building security, being useful. But somewhere along the way, she had lost the thread of meaning. It wasn't until she sat in the stillness of a mindfulness retreat, where no one needed her to perform, that she wept for no reason at all. "I kept trying to become someone," she said, "but I forgot how to simply be myself." Letting go of the chase doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop running from yourself. It means you lay down the weight of always needing to fix, to prove, to achieve, and instead you begin listening. Listening to the quiet breath that has been with you since the day you were born. Listening to the still place within that never doubted your worth to begin with. What if this very moment, the one you are in now, was enough? What if you are not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be embraced? To begin this path is to soften, to loosen the grip, to notice where the mind says not yet, and gently reply, "What if now?" In the stillness of your heart, there lies a quiet truth, often drowned beneath the noise of self-improvement and social expectations. There is nothing missing in you. This may sound naive or even unproductive in a world that idolizes ambition, but Buddhist philosophy teaches us to look past the illusions of accumulation and progress. The sense that we are unfinished, always needing to become more, that is the root illusion. It binds us to suffering, precisely because it assumes that what we are as we are is insufficient. Think of a mirror. A mirror doesn't demand the image it reflects to be prettier or more accomplished. It doesn't judge, it doesn't strive. It simply reflects what is fully, honestly, without agenda. In many ways, our true nature is like that mirror. But over time, dust settles. Stories, labels, judgments, they accumulate. We begin to see not what is, but what we fear we are. and in doing so, we forget. The Buddha often spoke of the emptiness of self, anatta. But this doesn't mean we are hollow or meaningless. Rather, it means we are not fixed. We are not bound by the stories we tell ourselves. We are free to return again and again to the spaciousness of the present, the now that asks for nothing but our attention. Imagine a man standing by a riverbank, holding tightly onto a heavy rock. He complains of how difficult it is to move, how tired he feels. Let go of the rock, someone tells him. He says, "But it's mine. I've carried it for so long." This is how we often carry the burden of not enoughness. We hold tightly to a belief we've inherited, never questioning whether it truly belongs to us. Letting go is not just about surrendering external desires. It's about loosening the grip of internal demands. The need to always be useful, perfect, wise, lovable. It is about trusting that in this breath, right now, nothing more is required. There's a story of a monk who sat by a dusty roadside with a begging bowl. A traveler passed by and laughed, saying, "You sit there with nothing." The monk smiled, lifting the bowl. "On the contrary," he said, "I have everything." The traveler didn't understand, but perhaps we do, if we listen closely. What is this everything the monk speaks of? It is the fullness of being, not born from possessions or praise, but from presence. To be present is to meet life as it is, without needing to dress it up or chase it down. It is to experience a sip of tea, the warmth of sunlight, the softness of your breath, as enough. And perhaps this is the most radical idea of all in modern life: to be satisfied, not because we've reached the peak, but because we've stopped climbing for a moment to admire the view. Have you ever allowed yourself to simply be, without correction, without a plan, without improvement? What would happen if you paused, not to catch your breath, but to feel it? In that pause, in that stillness, you begin to sense something sacred. Not a distant God, not a grand achievement, but the humble, radiant completeness of being alive. There's a subtle magic that arises when we stop trying to become someone and instead begin to remember who we already are. Acting as if you are already whole, already loved, already enough, is often misunderstood. In modern culture, this phrase is sometimes associated with performance, with pretending, with putting on a mask. But in the Buddhist tradition, acting as if is not deception. It is remembrance, a return, a coming home. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, there is a teaching that says, "Do not seek liberation as something apart from yourself. Understand that enlightenment is not something to be acquired, but something to be revealed." That revelation comes when we live from the truth already present within, not because we're faking it, but because we stop denying it. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine a lamp covered in a cloth. The room feels dim, the corners unclear. You begin to blame the room, the world, the time of day, but the light is there, always. It's not about trying to make the light brighter. It's about lifting the covering. That's what happens when you begin to embody your completeness. You lift the veil. You act not from emptiness, but from fullness. You walk into the world not needing approval, but offering presence. This doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy, but it becomes less adversarial. You're no longer fighting for worthiness, you're living from it. That simple shift can change everything. Consider James, a retired teacher who, after decades of shaping young minds, found himself adrift. No one asked for his opinion anymore. No students clung to his every word. He told a friend, "It's like I've disappeared." But then he began volunteering at a local library, reading to children once a week. No paycheck, no accolades, just a room full of wiggling bodies and curious eyes. He said, "At first I felt like a ghost, but the moment I stopped trying to be important and just shared what I loved, the room lit up. I was never gone. I just forgot how to be seen from the inside out." Acting as if you already have what you seek isn't about deluding yourself. It's about choosing to live from your core rather than your conditioning. When you embody peace, the world around you often softens in response. When you embody love, it becomes easier to see it in others. The outer follows the inner, not always immediately, but inevitably. And this is where the wisdom of mindfulness enters. Sati, the Pali word for mindfulness, is not just awareness, it is remembering to return, returning again and again to presence, to your breath, to this moment, to who you really are beneath the stories. What would shift if you moved through today as someone already at peace, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need perfection to begin? The mind will say, "But I don't have it yet." And the heart, if you let it speak, may gently reply, "You don't have to have it to be it." Reality, as we often experience it, appears fixed, governed by facts, outcomes, and external validations. But look closer and you'll begin to sense something far more fluid, something that responds not only to action, but to being. The Buddhist path invites us to understand this through direct experience, not blind faith. In the Avatamsaka Sutra, it is said, "The mind is like a painter. It paints the world with its own colors. What you carry within, your thoughts, emotions, intentions, becomes the lens through which the world reveals itself." This is not mysticism, it is perception. Life does not simply respond to your words. It responds to your energy. Your quiet beliefs about yourself ripple outward, shaping your posture, your tone, the way you meet a stranger's gaze. If you believe you are broken, the world begins to mirror fracture. If you trust in your wholeness, even in small moments, the mirror softens. Think of Margaret, a widow in her early 70s, who lost not only her husband, but her sense of identity. For years, she said, "I walked through my days like a shadow. I didn't expect anything good, so nothing good seemed to come." Then one morning, as she sat by her window, watching a robin hop from branch to branch, she felt a sudden shift. She said, "The bird wasn't singing at me, it was just singing. I realized life isn't withholding anything, I was just closed." From that day she started small, smiling at neighbors, planting flowers, reading poetry again, nothing extravagant. But within weeks, she felt life meet her differently. A warmth returned, not because the world had changed, but because she had. This is the silent, unseen power of alignment, not forcing the world to become something for you, but becoming someone who lives as if the world is already trustworthy, already sacred, already enough. The Buddha taught that we suffer, not because the world is harsh, but because we resist what is. When we surrender this resistance, when we meet each moment as it is, we become attuned to the natural rhythm of things, and in that rhythm, we are not passive observers, but participants in the unfolding. To surrender, in this context, is not to give up, it is to give in, to the present, to the breath, to the mystery that is not ours to control. The more we try to bend life into our desired shape, the more we encounter tension. But the moment we soften, life begins to bend with us. Have you noticed that when you stop gripping tightly, things often work themselves out? That when you stop needing something so desperately, space opens for it to arise naturally? You do not need to chase what is meant for you. You need only to become available, spacious enough to receive. Let go. Not because you're abandoning your dreams, but because you trust the soil after planting the seed. Letting go is not a weakness. It is the profound strength of trust. Trust, in the truest sense, is not blind. It is not naive optimism, nor a denial of pain. Trust, in the Buddhist sense, is confidence in the unfolding, a quiet faith that life, like a river, knows how to flow. It is a remembering that you are not separate from this river, but made of the very same current. We are taught from an early age to control, to plan, to predict, to manage every aspect of our lives. And when things go wrong, we double down, believing that tighter control will bring more peace. But often the opposite happens. The more we clutch, the more brittle we become. The more we tighten, the more life resists. A Buddhist master once said, "You cannot hold the wind in your fist." In the same way, peace does not come from grasping. It comes from opening, not giving up the journey, but surrendering the illusion that you are walking alone. Consider the story of Thomas, a man in his 60s who had spent most of his life building a business. After a series of unexpected losses, he found himself starting over. "I felt like I had failed," he said. "Everything I worked for was gone." He spent months consumed with regret and control, replaying decisions, imagining alternate timelines. Then one day, during a walk through a forest trail, he noticed a fallen tree, its roots upturned, surrounded by new saplings sprouting from the earth. It struck him like a silent bell. Even in the aftermath of loss, life renews itself, not always immediately, not always clearly, but inevitably. He didn't have to rebuild the same life. He could build something different, or he could simply live, more slowly, more intentionally, more freely. This is the deeper essence of trust, letting life shape you, rather than constantly shaping life. Recognizing that the timing of things is rarely ours to determine, that what you thought was a detour may be the very road you needed. In Buddhist psychology, this kind of trust is related to saddha, a Sanskrit word often translated as faith, but more accurately meaning serene confidence. It is not clinging to belief, but resting in an inner knowing. Saddha says, "I don't know how, and I don't know when, but I trust that life unfolds according to a rhythm deeper than my mind." What might shift if you released your need to figure it all out right now? Could you sit, just for a moment, without a plan, without a fix, and simply be? It's uncomfortable, yes. The ego wants control, it wants answers, but trust invites you to feel safe, even in the unknown, to walk forward, even if you cannot see the whole path. And in that step, that quiet, courageous step into not knowing, life meets you halfway, not always with fireworks, but often with a quiet unfolding, a conversation, a breeze, an inner softening. You don't need to force the tide, you need only stop swimming against it. There is a mountain that lives inside each of us, steady, grounded, unmoved by passing clouds. But most of us spend our lives trying to climb toward something we already are. We scale the ridges of self-improvement, reach for the peaks of accomplishment, convinced that only at the summit will we be worthy of peace. Yet what if the climb itself is the distraction? The Buddhist path teaches that the self we seek is not a future version to be earned, but a presence to be remembered. You are already the mountain, not because you have arrived, but because you were never separate. The illusion was always that you needed to become something else. There is a Zen koan that says, "No snowflake ever falls in the wrong place." It invites us to reflect. Is anything, including you, truly out of place in this vast, interconnected world. Imagine an artist painting a landscape. She doesn't question whether the mountain is too jagged or the tree too twisted. She honors each stroke as part of the whole. In the same way, your imperfections, your wounds, your quirks, they are brushstrokes of your becoming. You are not here to erase them. You are here to see them in the light of compassion. This is not complacency, it's clarity. When you stop trying to fix yourself, you create space to grow from love instead of fear. You plant not from panic, but from purpose. You act, not to prove your worth, but to express your truth. Consider Denise, a woman in her late 60s who, after retiring, felt adrift. Without her job, she questioned her value. Who am I if I'm not needed? She wondered. So she busied herself, signed up for classes, tried to learn a new language, filled every corner of her schedule, but the inner emptiness lingered. One afternoon she sat quietly in her garden. No goals, no plans, just the hum of bees and the scent of lavender. And in that stillness, something softened. She realized, I am not here to be useful. I am here to be whole. From that day forward, she began painting again, not to sell, not to impress, but because it made her feel alive. She didn't become someone new. She returned to who she had always been. When you act from this place, the place of already being, life becomes an expression, not a transaction. You begin to ask not, what must I do to be worthy, but how do I live in alignment with the worth that already is? This is the power of embodiment. It isn't loud. It isn't about proclamations or performance. It's how you hold your body when you speak. It's the softness in your eyes when you listen. It's the calm in your voice when things go wrong. Not because you're unaffected, but because you're rooted. What would shift in your life if you no longer needed to earn your right to exist? If you moved through the world, not as a question, but as an answer. You are not the seeker of the mountain. You are the mountain. You have simply forgotten. When we begin to live from the quiet, knowing that we already have what we seek, something begins to shift, not in the world outside, but in the very center of our being. Life stops being a performance. It becomes a practice, a devotion, a remembering. Each day offers us 100 chances to choose from this wholeness, to embody it. Not as a concept, but as a living reality. You don't need a grand stage to do this. You only need the space of the present moment. In Buddhist psychology, the idea of right action, part of the Eightfold Path, is not about impressing the world or achieving something visible. It's about acting in alignment with what is true, compassionate, and wise within you. And often, those acts are small, nearly invisible to the outer world, but profoundly transformative on the inside. Think of a tuning fork. When you strike it, it begins to vibrate, not loudly but clearly, and that frequency, if pure, can influence the tuning of other instruments nearby. In the same way, when you begin to live from inner alignment, the world begins to vibrate differently around you, not because you are forcing it, but because you've changed your own resonance. There's a story told of a man who sat at the gates of a village, watching travelers arrive. To each visitor he asked, "What kind of place did you come from?" If they said, "A place full of anger and cruelty," he replied, "then you will find the same here." If they said, "A place full of kindness and warmth," he would smile and say, "Then you will feel at home here." The village did not change, but each traveler brought their inner world with them. So do we. Everywhere we go, we carry the weather of our hearts. And the question becomes, what are we broadcasting? What are we aligning with? Lack or fullness? Doubt or trust? Fear or presence? It is easy to fall back into old patterns, the inner critic, the impatience, the sense of not doing enough. But every breath is a doorway back to embodiment. And that embodiment is not a performance for others. It is a quiet revolution within. We begin to show up differently. Instead of rushing, we move with intention. Instead of needing to prove, we offer. Instead of reacting, we respond from stillness. This isn't about never feeling fear or sadness or confusion. It's about not letting those states become your home. It's about remembering that beneath every storm is a ground that doesn't move, the ground of your true nature. What would it feel like to walk into a room and not wonder whether you belong, but know, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are beneath all doing? That knowing doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. It settles in the bones. It softens the breath. It radiates gently, steadily, like the warmth of a candle in a quiet room. And in that space, life begins to recognize you. Not because you've convinced it, but because you've stopped hiding. So often we search outside ourselves for confirmation, some signal that we're on the right path, that we're good enough, that we're loved. We wait for signs. We wait for someone to say, "You've made it." We wait for peace to arrive like a letter in the mail. But Buddhist wisdom turns this idea inside out. The world is not the cause. It is the mirror. The causes are within. This is why the practice of mindfulness is so radical. It interrupts the tendency to live in reaction. Instead of being pulled and pushed by circumstance, we begin to live from decision, from clarity, from remembrance. A person who waits for the world to prove their worth will always be a step behind. But the one who chooses to embody their worth, they become the source of change, not the result of it. Consider a woman named Lillian. After decades in a difficult marriage and raising children who've long since left home, she found herself alone. Her days were quiet. Too quiet. She began to shrink in the silence, convinced that she no longer had a role, a purpose. But one morning, as she was watering her plants, she felt a deep, inexplicable gratitude for the warmth of the sun on her skin, for the roots growing beneath her feet. She laughed and cried at the same time. "I thought I had nothing," she later said, "but in that moment I realized I am overflowing." She hadn't acquired anything new. She hadn't solved all her problems, but something had shifted inside, a remembering, and that remembering changed how she spoke, how she moved, how she began to re-enter the world. This is embodiment. It's not about repeating affirmations or pretending everything is fine. It's about becoming the energy of the life you desire, from the inside out. If you long for peace, live gently. If you yearn for love, become a sanctuary for yourself. If you seek abundance, begin with generosity, even if it's only the generosity of a kind thought. The universe responds to frequency, not wishful thinking, but lived truth. And so the path is not about waiting for the conditions to be right. It's about choosing to be right with yourself, here, now. This is what Buddhists call karma, intentional action, not just in what you do, but in what you are. You are constantly planting seeds through your thoughts, your presence, your responses, and those seeds take root, not always quickly, but certainly. It may not be immediate. You may not see the fruits of your inner work tomorrow, but the moment you shift inwardly, life begins rearranging itself around that shift. The fruit does not appear the moment the seed is planted, but something has already changed the moment you stop living as a reaction and start living as a choice. What if the version of you you've been striving to become is already waiting, not ahead of you, but within you? The invitation is not to strive harder, it is to tune deeper. There is a truth that Buddhism teaches with quiet but unwavering clarity. Nothing needs to be added to you for you to be complete. The spiritual path is not a staircase to ascend, but a veil to lift. It is not about self-improvement, it is about self-remembrance. And so we come to one of the most liberating insights of all. You do not need to be fixed. You only need to be remembered. This goes against everything modern culture teaches, from magazines to medicine cabinets, from commercials to comparison. The world tells you, you are not quite there yet. You are one purchase, one goal, one miracle away from being okay. But that illusion feeds the root of suffering. It keeps us searching, striving, waiting. Yet what if the thing we longed for most, worthiness, peace, acceptance, was never gone? What if it was only buried under years of shoulds and shouldn'ts, of shame and striving? There is a parable about a golden Buddha statue in a village monastery in Thailand. Centuries ago, during an invasion, the monks covered the statue in clay to protect it from being stolen or destroyed. The disguise worked, and over time, the invaders left, and the clay-covered Buddha remained, forgotten. Generations passed, and no one realized what lay beneath. Then one day, a crack formed. A piece of clay fell away, revealing the glimmer of gold underneath. The monks carefully chipped away the rest and uncovered the treasure that had always been there. This is you. You are not something broken that needs fixing. You are something sacred that forgot its own shine. The process of healing, whether spiritual, emotional, or psychological, is not a construction project. It is an excavation, a returning. What if your anxiety is not a flaw, but a signal that you've wandered too far from your center? What if your sadness is not weakness, but longing, a homesickness for your own soul? This is where compassion enters. Karuna, in Buddhist teachings, is not pity. It is the deep wish that suffering be relieved, not just for others, but for ourselves. And it begins when we stop criticizing our pain and instead begin to listen to it, to hold it like a child who has cried for too long. Laurie, a woman in her early 70s, once shared this with a meditation group. I've spent my life thinking I needed to be stronger, wiser, better, but after my husband died, I couldn't perform that version of myself anymore. I fell apart, and in that falling apart, I found something: softness, kindness, the me I had been running from all along. She didn't find strength in perfection. She found it in surrender. You too are not a problem to solve. You are a presence to honor. Each time you soften the voice of self-judgment, each time you breathe through your discomfort, instead of shaming it, you come home. And that home is not a palace built by effort. It is a sanctuary already within. Let yourself remember. Let yourself return. The path was never about becoming someone else. It was about becoming more truly you. In the stillness of the heart, where thought begins to fade and only breath remains, a quiet realization dawns. Life is already happening, and you are already enough to meet it. This is where all teachings, Buddhist, psychological, and personal, converge. When you let go of striving and live from inner truth, you become aligned with a deeper wisdom, not the kind found in books or theories, but the kind that rises from silence, from simplicity, from presence. And in this final turning, you stop asking, "What must I do to become whole?" and begin asking, "What would I do if I knew I already was?" This question transforms your choices. It rewrites the story. Instead of rushing to fill space with noise, you begin to listen. Instead of performing for love, you begin to offer love freely. Instead of fearing impermanence, you begin to dance with it. And each breath becomes a blessing. Each act, a prayer. Each moment, a homecoming. In Buddhist meditation practice, We are taught to watch the breath, not to control it, but to know it, to return to it, again and again, not because it is exciting, but because it is real. It brings us back from distraction, from illusion, from the endless search. Likewise, when you live from the truth of your completeness, you return to yourself, again and again. You remember that nothing needs to be added, that your enoughness is not fragile. It does not rise and fall with applause. It is steady, like the earth beneath your feet. And so, the chase ends, not because you gave up, but because you woke up. You are no longer a seeker looking for a future self. You are a remembering, a walking, breathing remembrance of something sacred that was never lost. And yes, the world may still move with urgency around you. People may still measure success in titles, numbers and noise. But you have become the still point in a turning world. You walk with a quiet presence that says, I no longer need to arrive. I am already here. This is the essence of liberation. The person who has learned to love themselves no longer fears losing anything. They have returned to the source. They have remembered who they are. And from that place, everything flows.